One of the first notes I made to myself is that sometimes we forget that the fight for women's rights is a fight for social justice. If there is no justice in the homes, I don't see how we can have justice in the society. Now, the thing with domestic labor is the reason why we make fun of it, and the men say we don't want a part in it, is because it's unpaid. It is job that is not paid for. Where it is paid for, we find men doing all the chores. They are chefs in the major restaurants. They are the ones who stay in the kitchen throughout. That's how they earn their living. If we did a survey on census, we are going to find that the majority of chefs in restaurants are men. Here in Nigeria, we have washermen who go around washing clothes for people for money. We call them washermen because you hardly see a washerwoman. Most of them are men because it is paid for. So I think that the real issue with domestic chores is not that men don't do these things. They do them where it brings in money. So, and I think that is one thing for us to take away. Now, the issue of girls versus women. That we are born girls and boys. We are all born either boys or girls. We are human beings, but then, you know, there's a difference. The biological differences that make us boys and girls, and we grow up to become men and women. So when he then, you know, towards the end of his paper, now turns around and says, the Chibok girls should not be called girls, I disagree. We are born boys and girls. We are children. First we are children, then we become adults. I think when we become adults, the girl becomes a woman, and the boy becomes a man. As long as we use the word boy, we must use the word girl. The danger in not saying girls, we play into the hand of those who say they can marry a 10-year-old. Because that 10-year-old now is a woman, is not a girl. When we feminists, we say without apologies, a girl is a girl is a girl, and a child is a child is a child. So the Chibok girls have been taken from secondary school. They are children. They've taken children. So, and I think we should remember that these are children. Their trauma is all the more greater because they are children. If they took an adult woman, she probably will know better, you know, understand what is, be able to process better what is going on in her life. So I just wanted to say that. The 2015 elections and the participation of women. It is true that women make up the bulk of the electorate. And beyond the numbers of registered voters, it is women that turn up more to vote. So there is something that women have, which I think other people have called it hidden power. We have the power in the sense that, first of all, we socialize the children. And it is we who, in socializing, decide what the roles and the responsibilities will be. I think that is power that women need to use more to promote equity by making sure that the boy child and the girl child are treated. And when it comes to elections, that women use that power that they have. Actually, we are doing some projects in Ekiti and Osun State on women's participation. And there are going to be 2 summits next Monday in Ekiti and next week Wednesday in Osun to engage male politicians. It is the same demand that women have. We are going to vote across party lines for any party that fields more women candidates. And beyond fielding for election, that we want to see more women in party structures, you know, especially at the grassroots level, ward level, local government level. I want to say that we should take that cry away from here, what we take away, and tell politicians that we want to see more women in leadership positions. Now, the issue of what a woman is doing in the house that makes, I think it's been critical. Right now, there are 13 women heads of state across the world. when you look at their policies, of course we have Margaret Thatcher, the milk snatcher, you know, and we all marched against her, if you remember, when she was, when they were coming to the country. At the airport, we had a running party with the police from NLC to that place. So, but that is, you know, we've had people like that, but by and large, when we look at what is happening in the world today and we look at the policies of the women, I think that one of the primary roles that women are playing is peacemaking and peace building. They are reconstructing countries. Yeah, Thatcher went and did the Falkland Wars, the El Malvinas War. But then if you look at other women, yes, she's a Tory, so we are not surprised. She's among with the Hawks. But if you look at their building peace, look at Liberia, the reform, look at Nicaragua, Chamorro was able to get the Contra, you know, to disarm. And in Managua, in the square, she collected all the weapons and used a concrete to cover all those weapons and build a big monument over the weapons that they use, you know, to fight. And on it is inscribed, never again. And they take little children on excursion there to show them, never again in our country are we going to kill one another. So women build peace. And I think we need that now in Nigeria, where we are having all these Boko Haram and terrorism and all forms of violence. So I think that that is very important, something about what is it we are participating in. It's not enough to participate. Sometimes we see co-option, where we have women who are picked up and put by the ruling class in positions to do their dirty jobs for them. They become anti-working class and so on. So I think that it is important that the ethical values, you know, that drive what we do is different from the one of the class that we want to change. And he did say something about the casualization of workers that I think we need to take seriously. There are 38 million unemployed Nigerians, according to the Bureau of Statistics, so we are not the ones saying it. That is more than the population of Uganda. Uganda is 35 million people. Unemployed. So, in short, combination of Ghana, Togo, and all that. So I think that as long as people don't have work, the unions are going to be getting smaller and smaller in size. I think this we need to take it seriously. And for us to change things, we must be political. Comrade Ejiofor reminded us about courage. That we must, the synergy that we're talking about between civil society and the labor union is one that will make us take on political issues, because economic issues are political issues. The access to jobs, working conditions, these are political issues. And trade unions need to become involved in politics. We are not saying partisan. There is a difference between being partisan and being political. But we need to address, because when the labor and the civil society, each time we had action, this tension was always there. Whether the trade unions, they are always reminding us, oh, we are a trade union, there are certain things we can do. It's true, there are boundaries, but I think that trade unions need to become more political in order to check the culture of impunity. Because as long as impunity exists in the society and there's lawlessness, women will continue to be vulnerable to gender-based violence. There will be no enforcement of anything or any policies. Nobody will hold anybody responsible. So we really need to challenge impunity. And join hands, there is a campaign against impunity going on in the country that civil society groups are organizing. I think that labor, especially the women commissions of labor, need to build stronger alliances with these movements that are going on around the country so that we can better achieve our aim. Now my last point. I think it is the comrade from TUC who said that women need to be in places where decisions concerning women are being taken. Well, my take is that women need to be in all places where decisions are being taken. So, all decision-making organs and places where decisions are being made about the common good, I think that women must be allowed to participate there and to have a strong voice. Thank you very much.